Welcome back, guys. We got an exciting video for you today. We have this whitetail buck here. This is a deer that my brother shot last year named Moose. As you can tell, we named it Moose. It's just super palmated. So we're going to be going over this deer today, showing you how to score a whitetail deer. We picked this deer in particular just because of how much mass and palmation, and that can cause scoring faults for some people, and we're going to show you the correct way to score a deer. So let's go ahead and get rolling on this video. Alright guys, so our first step of the scoring process is we're going to take some Scotch tape. It can be white or blue, either works. And we're going to take about a 3-inch long piece of it, and we're going to come up to this base, and you can see on this deer his main beam, how it comes right here. We're going to go ahead and put this piece of tape right here where it's in the middle of the main beam, and then we're going to go ahead and do that to the rest of these. We'll even do it to the front of the brow tines. On these deer you can do the front or back of the brows, it don't matter, but for the tines, the G2, 3, 4 and etc., it has to be on the outside. So for this particular deer, since the brow tines lay back, we're going to go ahead and put them up front. So we're going to go ahead and get that going for y'all. Alright, now that we have all of the tines all taped up everywhere, including the brow tines, our next step is we're going to come right here to this first tine, and we have a string, a pretty pliable string, and we're going to hold it on the top of the main beam on both sides, just like so. You're going to kind of get it where it wants to kind of sit, and we're going to take this little pin, and then we're just going to draw a line on the bottom. So what this is doing, this is just recreating the main beam, top of the main beam going right here, so that gives us our measuring point for when we measure the length of the tines going upwards. So we're gonna go ahead and mark the rest of these for y'all, and then we'll get on to doing some measuring and calculating. So as you guys just seen that time lapse, we just took our string and we put it up here where we could get this, and you can see this perfectly follows the top of the main beam as if it was just kept on going. So we did that all the way around. This side was kind of trickier because of the mass right here, but you just keep on doing it, so it'd go from here to here. That's why it's angled down, and then this. So we're going to go ahead and get scoring. We're going to start out, our first score is going to be the length of the main beam, and we're going to go ahead and start on this right side. Will be the first side we score. So for the length of the main beam, you're going to want to start right here where his eye, the middle of his eye. So see this bone right here on the skull, how it comes up at this farthest down point right here. So we're just going to start at the base right here where I have it flush. And I'm going to keep coming until I get the back of this main beam right here, and I'm just going to wrap my way around. This deer has decent main beams. This first one's going to come right in at 21 6/8. So we're going to go ahead and write that down on our rough score sheet. Now that we had our main beam clocked in at 21 6/8, we're just going to come to the middle of the brow tine, so it's going to be about right in this area. And this is going to be right at 2 5/8. So we got that, and then we can transition on to our G2 right here. We're going to come right down the middle of this G2. Have it right on the edge right there. And this G2 has been broke, so we kind of got to eyeball it, and this is going to come in right at 8 3/8. Then we can move on to our G3, which this side has G3 and this side will have a G4. So come up here, and this is going to be right at 5 1/2, so 5 4/8. So that is all the tine measurements for this right side, and now we'll get on to the mass measurements. There will be 4 mass measurements, so we'll get on with that right now. So we're gonna come to his base right here, and you find the smallest mass that this base has. So it looks like it's gonna be at the very bottom right here. We're gonna wrap it around, and it's gonna be 4 1/4. So 4 2/8 is his mass 1 measurement. I'm gonna go ahead and come to his mass 2 measurement, which is gonna be right here. Looks like the smallest area is gonna be somewhere about right in there. And that's gonna be right at 3 6/8. Then we'll come to his M3. This is where he gets a little bit bigger on his mass. It's right at 4 exactly. And then for this final measurement, for an 8-point, you have to measure between the middle of his final tine, which would be his G3, to the very end. And then you pick out where it's halfway on that, and then that's where you score the final mass measurement. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna come right to the middle of this. We're just gonna score this little piece. This don't count nothing, it's 7 1/4. So now we'll find 3 5/8, which is gonna be right here on my thumb. And I'm just gonna take this tape. And that's gonna be right at 2 6/8. So the final measurement right here is 2 3/4. So that is all for the right side. We'll go ahead, move on to the left side, and then the spread, and then we'll calculate the steer's gross score. So we now have the measurements of all the tines and mass measurements, main beams, everything. So now we're gonna go ahead and get the widths. So this is an official score sheet. I'm not an official scorer yet, I'm working on it. I will be at Rack Madness in Oklahoma City on March 5th. So you can come by the wildlife department and see us 1 through 6. I'll be there helping score your deer. But to start, this does not count towards the scoring at all, but it is a part of the process to put on the official score sheet. We're gonna do the tip to tip, the inside spread, which will be part of the scoring, and then the outside spread. So we're gonna go ahead and do this tip to tip. We'll just go straight from the tip to tip, pretty self-explanatory. And that is at 6 1/4. And then we're gonna do the outside spread. We'll go from the outside of the main beams. You got to stay in between the widest points, so we're in between the G2 and G3, and that's going to be right at 17 1/4. Now we'll do the inside, which is the one that actually counts towards the score sheet. So we're going to go from right here. I'm just holding this inside of his main beam, staying within the G2 and G3. He is going to be right at 15 7/8 is the inside spread. So we're going to go ahead, write all that down on the score sheet, and then we're going to do some calculations. We'll get you guys the steer's gross score and then his net score. So that concludes this video of how to score white-tailed deer. This deer grosses at 127 6/8, and he nets at 120 6/8. That's with about 5 inches of broken off stuff. He broke off about 3 inches off this tine and about 2 off of this big G2. But I always say that nets aren't for fishing. I think what a deer has should count. So in my books, this is a 127 incher. But if you got this deer officially scored, he would not be Pope and Young. He falls 5 inches short of the 125 Pope and Young mark. But that's going to conclude today's video. Thanks for watching, and we hope you guys enjoy.